Now to the war in Ukraine, where the discovery of hundreds of bodies in the region surrounding the capital, Kyiv, is sparking global outrage.
Ukrainian authorities say the bodies of more than 400 civilians have been found in towns recently recaptured from Russian forces after they withdrew from the area. In the town of Bucha, images emerged of some people with their hands tied, while reports say others appear to have been shot at close range. Speaking on Face the Nation yesterday, Ukraine's President Zelenskyy accused Russia of committing atrocities.
Indeed, this is genocide. The elimination of the whole nation and the people. We are the citizens of Ukraine. We have more than 100 nationalities. This is about the destruction and extermination of all these nationalities.
NBC News correspondent Molly Hunter joins us now from Lviv. Molly, these are just shocking images coming out of Bucha and other towns over the weekend. What can you tell us about these discoveries, and what is Russia saying about all of this?
Yeah, Joe, and other towns, I think, are the operative words there. This is not just going to happen in Bucha. This is just where we are seeing it first. So we have been reporting for the last several days that Russian troops have had to retreat, have withdrawn, have had to fall back as Ukrainian troops are pushing out around the capital. Bucha is one of those commuter towns. It's right near Irpin. It's one of those suburbs on the belt around Kyiv. So this is what we are seeing. We are seeing pictures, and journalists have now been inside. Independent journalists have now been inside. This is not information that we're getting from the Ukrainian government. We have seen pictures of bodies on the street. We have seen pictures of people with their hands tied, civilians who have been shot, civilian cars which have been completely blown up and shot at. And actually, Joe and Savannah, I literally just finished an interview with two people who came out of Bucha who said they had seen this with their own eyes. They saw people on bicycles who had been shot, civilians who were just laying on the ground. And they said when they escaped and they tried to keep their eyes on the road, we literally just finished this interview, they were trying to keep their eyes on the road, trying to keep their kids focused in the car so they didn't look outside at all the bodies. But you heard President Zelenskyy there. He calls it genocide. We know Human Rights Watch is inside Bucha today. They are starting their investigation. What happens next is this is a crime scene. So now investigators need to go in. No one can tamper with the bodies. No one can tamper with the evidence, because that's the only way that then investigators can start to prosecute possible war crimes.
So you mentioned an investigation, and I think that leads to just the question, what's next? I mean, we're hearing world leaders condemning Russia. Some are calling for something like further sanctions. What could that look like? What more can be done here? And what does that investigation potentially lead to?
Yeah, and Savannah, Joe, I just realized I didn't answer fully your question. Russia is denying this. They are saying that whole scene is staged, which we know is absolutely not true. As far as what's next, we know here in Europe, the EU is urgently discussing sanctions today. We've heard from French President Macron that says they need to target Russia oil and gas much stronger. I think there will be a lot of discussion, as we saw in the first couple rounds of sanctions. How far will Germany go? That's going to be a big question. But that's when the investigation then gets going. And this may be a turning point for the West, for Europe, for the U.S. It's what a lot of people were talking about over the weekend, guys, that after images like this have been shown to the world, does this change the calculation for the U.S., for NATO military intervention? But as far as the war crimes investigation, that's a long process, and evidence needs to be gathered. Nothing, I guess that we won't see the results of that anytime immediately soon.
Molly, while we have you, I want to ask you, you recently visited the important port city of Odessa to see how preparations were going for a possible Russian attack there. Over the weekend, we saw Russian missiles strike a fuel depot there. What more can you tell us about that? And are we seeing the start of even a wider offensive in that city, in that area?
The answer to the last question is I don't think so. When you talk to military experts and you talk to our own contributors who are watching troop movements very carefully right now, in order for Odessa to really get into the crosshairs of a main Russian offensive right now, Russians have to free up troops from Mariupol. They have to free up Russian warships, which are in the Sea of Azov, that have to make it all the way back to the Black Sea, which is where Odessa is. So I think these are strategic, smaller strikes on fuel depots. It's not the first strikes that we've seen on Odessa, certainly the most significant, though. And look, we'll be watching. We will be keeping an eye on that city this week. That is a city, you guys, that has been preparing since day one of the war. It looks completely different than Lviv. They have military checkpoints at every inch intersection. There are sandbags at every building. Half the city has fled. The other half is digging in to fight. The Navy tells us they have mined the famous white sand beaches. So they are ready for an attack, whether it comes in the air or whether it comes from the sea. But I think we'll still have to wait a little while longer because Russia simply doesn't have the manpower yet to move that far west.
All right, Molly Hunter, thank you so much. Powerful reporting on something so heartbreaking this morning.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.